I'm Sean Newton. This is the Warehouse of Doom, and this is the first of what I hope will be a whole bunch of videos where I share things that I'm learning, because this whole thing's a learning experience for me. I learn as I go, and I really don't currently know a whole bunch about all this AC work. I usually do software and a little bit of DC low voltage stuff, but now I have a case to go ahead and learn some things. So this is great. Anyway, so today's project is that we've got a big old light bulb out at the front of the warehouse that has a 175 watts consumption on it. This is, I believe, a mercury vapor or perhaps a metal halide bulb. It's in one of these big old fixtures here. Now, interestingly enough, there were a few things I didn't know about these fixtures when I started my research. For one thing, the size of this is pretty large, right? I mean, this is a standard E26 light bulb thread, and this is a Mogul base, also known as an E39. Obviously, the two are not going to connect to each other, right? So that's why you have these little adapters. Now, before anybody knows what we're talking about here jumps in, yeah, this is a little adapter that goes on and it'll convert the E29 to, or the E39 to the E26. But wait, you ask, is that the only electrical difference? It is not in most cases. So the deal is that these bases provide a lot more wattage than your typical bulb would have. And in fact, these guys actually have quite a bit in common with fluorescent tubes. They're, most of the wiring diagrams I've seen, there's a capacitor, there's a ballast, a lot of these types of things you would see in a fluorescent. And also, get this. This is a photocell. It's a little cap that sits on top, but what I didn't know is that there is actually a standard for this. There's 3 prongs. I think there's actually an AC connector of some sort that would use this as well, but this is a twist lock connector. So you insert it into here, and the thing even has pictures of on the top of which way to turn it. So you twist it and lock it in and it's set to go, right? Now, these are modular because photocells do tend to degrade over time and just flat out stop working. So that's why you have the ability to just swap them out. You also could insert a photocell and remove it other times. You could also replace them with a fancy photocell slash dimmer. I guess maybe it turns on the light really low when it's starting to get dark and then brighter later on. Not sure. There's a lot of possibilities. It comes down to what electronics do you want to fit in this little cap. But overall, we've got this housing, and one of the things that's very important to me is this is a great place for wasps. So be aware that there is a possibility in any of these fixtures that have been there for a while that you're going to have wasp nests. Now, these nests are quite vacant and quite dead, but what do we have here? This is the pole, the mount for the pole that these things attach to. Now, this takes regular AC input, but you've also got more space for wasps and wasp nests and such. Now, I'm pretty sure that there are no live wasps in here. I could be surprised. They could come streaming out when I open this up, but I'm pretty sure they would have gotten angry by now if there were actually wasps in here. In wiring this, I'm going to have to do another ballast bypass just like the ones I've done for the fluorescents up above, and I've learned a few things about doing experimental wiring since the last, and one of the things I've learned is that these lever nuts here are your friends. They actually allow you to clamp down on the wires and then release them so you can rewire. Now, the problem with that is that if your copper wires are kind of braided and you're getting issues there, you can actually start losing strands, and if you lose strands of that wire, then you've got less metal, and that means higher resistance, and you're effectively lowering the gauge of your wire, and that is pretty much always a bad thing. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put this bulb down here where it's safe, and I am going to pull out my crimping tool set. Now this, it's very reminiscent of back when I was a teenager. My father bought me this wonderful electronics project set back at Epcot Center in Disney World. It was the Cosmos 4000, which was this very fancy German-made electronics set that had basically everything you could possibly want, and it took regular off-the-shelf components. What's not to love, right? Anyway, the nice thing about those electronics project kits as a kid is that you could pull the wires out, put them back in, but they were designed so that you weren't wearing the wires out, or rather the wear existed, but it was quite minimal. And so you could afford to, pull wires, reconnect them, pull them, reconnect them, iterate a bunch of times on your experiment until you figured out the right way to wire the project you were doing. Well, this is a little bit different at this point in life. We got to be more careful with it, but it remains that you don't necessarily have the perfect setup before you get going, or before you get the first shot, especially when you don't know what you're doing, like me. So we have these ferrules, they're called, which work with the crimper. This one that I've got here is a 6 or I don't know what they call these little guys here, but there's 6 points of steel that come in and crush the sides of this little ferrule to make it compression fit to the wire. Now this is, I believe, steel, or maybe it's I'm actually not sure what material it is, but it is much more resilient to being inserted and removed repeatedly than just the regular bare wire would be. So we can use this, use a wire that's been crimped with this as a test bed, as it were. So first thing I'm going to do here is actually install these crimped ferrule connectors onto my wires here. I gotta coax them out of the lever nuts. Another reason why these ferrules are provably better for a lot of applications. Okay, we got it out. Now, you can see that these wires here are looking a little bit worse for wear. They were all tightly braided when I first fit them in there, but they've ended up shifting a bit as they're crushed down on by that lever nut connector, right? So we're going to fix that. So we take the correct size and let's see. Wish I had a wire gauge thing on this, but you can always start with the smallest and work your way larger. And oh look, this actually fits, but it's super long, and I don't want the only point of contact to be this this end of it. So I'm going to take the black one, which is the same, look at it, and also okay, the shorter ones are down here, but that's actually for a couple of wires. All right, we want to find something that's just about this long and it is in that diameter. Those are for multiple wires. The other thing to keep in mind is that you always do have the option of feeding more of this in, or just of trimming a little bit off of the end of the ferrule is another viable option. So this guy is connected, fitting down the pipe, but let's see if I can maybe nope. All right, this one's looking like the right size. So next thing we do is we take our little set of crimpers, we slide over the ferrule here, We make sure we don't get the insulation, and we give it a good crimp. And now it is not coming off. It's on there pretty sturdy, and the jaws have put several indentations in it. And we're going to do the same with the next one. Oops. That is a longer one than... Okay, is this the same length? Yeah. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and pull out the others that I need right now. There we go. All right, fed it in. Now crimping. That's not going anywhere. And now the last of the three here. By the way, you don't want to buy these little 3-prong AC wires if you're a computer guy like me, because I guarantee you that you have a box of 3-prong cables, unless you threw it out, of those 3-prongers that go to the wall and then to the back of a computer power supply or whatever other device it is. You probably have 40, 50 more of those than you ever actually can use in your life. And when you dispose of a piece of electronics, you've still got the 3-prong cable for it, right? So you just go ahead and clip the end of it that goes into the computer, keep the wall end, and then you set up these ferrules on the end, and there you go. You've got your little electronics project kit for working with AC. Now, I am going to feed these guys into the lever nuts, and given that we now have the ferrules in place, I expect that I should be able to connect and disconnect this to my heart's desire without actually losing connectivity or without degrading the performance in the future. So, all three of these need to go in. And they are in there quite securely. Now, my ground wire, the green guy here in the middle, was a little bit shorter earlier, and I didn't always have a consistent connection with it. Sometimes I'd yank on it, it would come out. Well, with the ferrule, you know exactly how much of it you've got, and you can just make sure that these three insulation ends are consistent, and then that's really where you need to be. So, we're set here, and now we've got this fixture. So we got to get it open because we got to try to do the bypass where we remove the ballast and such. So light bulb's already out, so are the wasps, and I'm just going to reach in here to where the screws are, and there goes this. There goes this. By the way, the two little microphones here, this is an experiment I'm doing. These are two mono mics, and they work as a set together. So I actually have the theory that the one is providing the left channel and the other one's providing the right channel. So I think it's going to be kind of interesting to see if there's a neat little stereo effect while I'm talking wearing these. What's probably going to actually end up happening is I'm going to be annoyed because it's just picking up twice the amount of clothes rustling, and I'm just going to end up using the audio from my fallback, which is the other camera right here. All right, so I can't just twist and turn because there's a washer holding it in, so I'm going to have to unscrew it all the way. And if you can hear it in the background, I'm sorry. Yes, I got the giant fan going. I'm trying not to sweat a massive amount here to the degree where it's quite apparent on the video. It is 3 in the morning, which means that it's going to start getting hot. Yeah, I'm serious. This is Alabama. Okay, one screw is loose. And I'm watching here. Oh, did I not get that? I did not get that. Okay, now we're getting the other screw out. Come on. Okay, the other one's loose. Now we are pulling this. Oh, well, look at that. This one wasn't out. Okay. All right. Yep, as expected. Oh, wow. There are so many wasp nests in this. So we got these two in here that were already long vacant. And then we got these which were vacant as well, but I don't know for how long. We got 1, 2, 3, 4 wasp nests in here, and by different species with different sizes, because there are larger cells here and the other ones looked more consistent with those northern paper wasps that I sprayed out front. Oh yes, this is fascinating. So in order to get at the ballast and the capacitor and all that stuff that needs to be bypassed, and there goes the train, I am going to have to take out this harness as well, which contains the Mogul base socket. Oh wow, look at this. And there are the wires leading to the, well, first we're going to get these nests out. Man, I realize they are long vacant, but there is a part of me that has an absolute twitching reaction to removing these nests. And the simple fact of just how many wasps at one point occupied this and were doing their happy little thing, which was, you know, horrifying because they're wasps. Man. Okay. So, yeah, this says MV175 ballast for a 175 watt mercury lamp. I'm going to turn this so that the home audience can play along, as it were. And then we've got, let's see, some other writing on this. Okay, it's just some standard UL listing saying don't use it with incandescent lights. Don't worry, you're going to be used with LEDs. Yeah, and I imagine if you did use it with incandescent lights, you'd get a spectacular little kaboom out of it. All right, so in order to bypass the ballast, well, ideally I'd pry this whole assembly off and remove some weight. Not that the weight probably matters very much. Oh my, look at this. We have frayed, oh yes, we do have frayed wires, but that's because this was where it was formerly connected to the AC. And let's see. That is insect residue. That is not damage. Okay, so we're going to put ferrules on these right away. Okay, and this fits. All right. All right, there we go. We got these. They're now ferrulized, which means that we can happily use them with the other things, but we gotta, okay, so we've got, okay, there is actually some kind of, no, this is a weld. This is welded on. Lovely. So I might not be bothering to remove that after all. I mean, I can get creative with a with an angle grinder, but I'm not sure how involved I really want to get with it right about now. So we got these two leads, and we need to bypass the ballast, and this is connected in through here, and then it's connected in through there. So the white wire's here, and it's not crimped on, it's just really old. All right, so the wiring goes down to here and then on through, and then the black wire, what is that, the one that actually runs us? Okay. So this is the simple bit. This just runs straight to the mains. Then we've got this red wire and this white wire that both talk to the photocell. Then this runs back to the main. So what we are going to want to do is to bypass the ballast by hooking this wire straight. Oh, wait. Hello. So you're the black lead. All right. So this is the one that goes through the muck and gets connected. Now I realize I could just cut this off, and that's probably what I'm going to end up doing here. So we want this black wire to not go here. Now we've got this wire and this wire with the photocell, and yeah, sorry, I'm not exactly that familiar with the way that this ought to be wired, and that's why I'm setting up ferrules and all that. And if I'm really being cautious, I will actually use a battery with a 120 volt AC thing coming off of it, so I'm not actually plugging it in and not risking tripping a breaker if I've got something wired badly. But I will cross that bridge when I get to it, based upon how confident I feel in the way that I've got things wired. So this goes back to the wall. And this goes back to the wall. Now, technically speaking, I know that I could simply wire this guy straight to the socket, or this socket straight over to here, and then have a proof of concept just running, totally bypassing and making sure that it works. In fact, I think I'm going to get a set of pliers so I can try to pull this connector here, and if I can't, I'm just going to go ahead and cut it. I'd rather not, but that may not be an option, right? All right. So now we're going to try and get this guy off of here. Well, no, that hasn't been soldered on. Is it just corrosion that has it on like this, or is there a solder connection as well? I mean, I'm really curious here just because I want to know. You know, not doing this professionally means that I am screwing around here and interested in learning, and if I want to take a science experiment figuring out why this thing is on here, then that's exactly what I'm going to do. And y'all are welcome to follow with me on it. Well, I also acknowledge that, yes, it would be simpler if I just went ahead and popped the thing. All right. The multi-tool, rather than running off for screwdriver head again. All right. Okay, so my theory here is that if I'm slipping the screwdriver blade under here, then, oh, it came right off. Ah, you know what? A fleck of lacquer came out of it, so I got a hunch that whatever they sealed this transformer with, they also ran it over here in order to bond the little connectors to the to it as well. Anyway. And yeah, I know the bad scenario here has me whacking my laptop off of the thing. That is much more expensive of a loss than I want to absorb, just because I just had to know what was keeping these connectors on. So I moved the laptop. Okay. This is loose as well now. And yeah, I don't see any lacquer on this one. So I don't know what it was. Maybe it's just age and corrosion. These are dissimilar metals, and dissimilar metals will often experience a type of corrosion that I believe has to do with ion exchange over time. I believe it's called galvanic corrosion. It's common when you're interfacing, I think it's steel and copper, and I think that's actually the two metals we've got in play here. Oh, actually, now I see what it is. So there's a little tiny divot in these. I'll show you on the close-up once I've got this off of here. So there's a little tiny divot here, and that is right here, little tiny divot that lines up with a hole right in the center of this connector right here. So it was pressed on pretty good, and so therefore the right approach probably would have been for me to press down on this with a pin-sized or shaped object and get it out of there. Don't happen to have that laying around, so I'm not exactly going to do it. All right, so now we have the wires left that are connected straight to the thing here. So I am thinking, but not sure, that if I hot wire this to this, and ensure that it's not in contact with metal. Do I need to use a wasp nest as insulation here, guys? I should probably use a wasp nest. No, I'm not going to use a wasp nest as an insulation for electrical. For one thing, that's made out of paper and other various organic substances. I'm learning a lot about wasps since moving to Alabama. And yes, I know the obvious joke is that here's a wasp learning about a wasp. Yes, I'm a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, haha. All right, so yeah, I think we're about ready to try the grand and stupid experiment. So I'm going to take my lever nut experiment cable here. And wire it in. You will note that I'm not doing this while this is hot. There is no connection here. So, now I guess I plug it in, and I do have this connector sitting right here just for this purpose. First off, we'll see if all the lights in the warehouse go off and something horrible happens. In fact, I'm going to scoot away just a little bit. This transformer is bypassed, right? Yeah, there's no wire that's connected to the transformer. Okay, so there should be nothing happening here because it's not got a light plugged in. Okay, nothing happening. That is as expected. Now, I'm unplugged again. I am going to try hooking up what I affectionately refer to as a sun lamp. But what makes it a sun lamp? It's not full spectrum or anything. Glad you asked. The deal is that this corncob light here is 100 watts of LED goodness, and it is super bright. And I call it a sunlight because I'm trying to remind myself, don't look into the sun. All right, so keep in mind that we also have a questionable photocell sitting on top, but most of these photocells are set to fail open, and this one's been on most of the time. I don't think it actually turns off anymore. So I think it already has failed and it's just on all the time. That is the current theory. So let's see what happens. Do we get light? Yes, we do. And a fan. For the high wattage corncob LED lights, there's actually a little tiny fan inside of them. It's kind of cool. All right, so that has been my foray into messing with these big lights. I'm going to, let's see, I've got myself disconnected here from the mains, yes. All right, I'm gonna feed this over here. I'm really happy with the way that this these ferrules have set up for recreating that electronics kit feel. I mean, I feel like I'm a teenager again, screwing around with wiring up photocells to kind of play laser tag with a flashlight. Yes, that was one of the projects in the Cosmos kit. It was awesome. All right, so that's done, and I'm going to unscrew this light so that the number of connected, fragile, breakable things is reduced. Now, you will notice that now it's got a Mogul base on it. This is a really simple little adapter, but that goes onto the E26, but you need to make sure that you're correctly wired for it before you do this, because most of these E39 fixtures have ballasts or capacitors and other things in them that will ruin your regular bulb's day. These LEDs, all the ones I've seen, really just want to see straight 120, no ballast stepping the wattage up or down or anything like that. All right, so I'm not going to get creative and break these welds here. I'm just going to reassemble things. Which means that, okay, so there's this little hole here. And I guess reassembling would probably mean I should put the wasp nests back in, but I really don't feel like it. And I am going to lighten the load very slightly, but by not reassembling the wasp nests. Now, that is kind of a bad move on my part, because not having wasp nests, guess what I've just done? I've now created prime real estate for wasps to move into. So the wise thing for me to do on a going forward basis is to make sure that I periodically spray some wasp spray up into all the fixtures that I see. Now, that is also a dumb thing to do because electricity, conducting, and all that stuff. But Anybody who thinks that that's unreasonable is also not thinking about just how much I hate wasps. And anybody who is actually pro-wasp who is watching these videos, your only real hope here is that I go full Ender Wiggin on this and decide that I want to learn everything I possibly can about them and plan to extinct them, but then decide that I really love the species and I want it to continue. That is your best case scenario for me and wasps, but I'm going to tell you, I don't think that's going to happen because I just hate them. Okay. And yes, there's more wasp nests in here that I'm going to remove. Again, stupid of me, because generally speaking, if there's already nests, you don't get more wasps building nests there. So all I'm really doing is hanging a vacancy sign up, but at the same time, I know where to spray now, so. Okay, so got this screw, got this screw. I'm going to move this over here so it's not in the way, because when I reinsert this collar here over the light, I am going to need to make sure that I have the wires fed the correct direction. So, oh look, a couple of Asian beetles long deceased. Fun fact, Asian beetles look like ladybugs. They look like an orange version of ladybugs, but they are not ladybugs. As the year goes on and Asian beetles are more prevalent, they are one of the critters that you see constantly here in Ozark. Inside your house, outside your house, everywhere. Anyway, I will probably end up describing the distinguishing characteristics of Asian beetles in excruciating depth. So don't worry, just tune in later and you'll hear all about that species. I mean, we are a couple of grubs away from me doing something on the stump borer beetle, which is huge, and I found one of those in here, and I don't know what it is about this warehouse, but it attracts some of the largest insects, and there is so much variety of these huge insects, it is truly ridiculous. Like, I've seen really big ones, and I rarely see the same species. It's like, oh, hi, you're some kind of a giant stag beetle. Oh, and yes, there's your buddy, the wood borer beetle, coming next, and, you know, just giant bug after giant bug after giant bug. Now, I'm actually not against beetles. I'm pretty fine with them running around, but it's the wasps that I truly dislike. And hornets. If you think I don't like wasps, you have clearly never heard me talk about those things. Okay, so this is all put together, and I'm going to insert the corncob bulb, and I notice that it protrudes conspicuously beneath the housing here. I should probably acquire one of the smaller bulbs because it's not exactly sealed for water tightness. And also the 50-watt LED corncob bulb puts out about as much light as the 175 watts bulb that has been replaced. So reconnecting just to make sure that it still works. And it still works for sure. Okay, now I get to get creative with hanging it up. but that will be an event for another day, I think. It is, well, actually, it's 3:32. I don't go to bed until 4 a.m. Yeah, maybe I got enough time to do it. All right. So let's hope that I got time to do the video setup for it all. Got my little step ladder here. Kind of tall for a step ladder, but it's a step ladder nonetheless. And I'm going to leave this out. Oh, wow. So I'm not even going to need to put ferrules on these because these are very large, solid copper wires coming out of the building. So I am actually quite happy at the thought of hooking these in. All right, so first things first, we got this pole mount, and that's actually pretty standard in these large outdoors fixtures. So a lot of your outdoors fixtures are designed to clamp onto a pole. Ah! Pole. Okay, memo to self, the wiring might be live. I actually didn't get shocked, I just got scared. I thought I had the breaker off for this. So this is a good indication that one should use the non-contact voltage tester. So this is my little Klein NCV tester. I pretty much know what it's going to tell me unless the breaker is tripped and cause things to die out. I'm pretty sure that if I go inside, I'm going to find that the breaker has in fact tripped. So I'm going to take my insulated pliers and I'm going to make sure that I get that wire out of contact. All right, so yes, it looks like the breaker has been tripped and the NCV tester is saying there is nothing here. So I'm going to take these pliers and move this wire. Yeah, it welded a little bit there. That's kind of cool in a way. So, yeah, that's an impressive carbon mark there. So this is the ground, which goes to the ground of the housing. As I understand it, arcing to ground is probably one of the safest things you can do rather than arcing to something else, like me. This is the part where the arm reach that comes with being 6'2" is beneficial. Okay, so I'm looking here and I see a wear spot where this, well, or I thought that was connected. Oh, okay, it's, all right, that makes sense. Okay, now let's get these wires all into their appropriate places. This white one goes to the white end. This black one goes to the black end. Chronicling this moment in Warehouse of Doom history. All right. Okay, I think this is the one. And let us go outside and see if we see something nice. And we do. We have the gloriously bright light. Yep, that is several times brighter than the illumination that used to be present. Now, of course, you may also notice that it's at a funny angle, so that is something I can actually correct pretty easily, just getting up there and torquing on it a bit. Now, I got a hunch that people might complain a little bit about the constant sound of that fan going off. That is probably something that would be a little bit irritating over time. But something they will not complain about is the lighting, I don't think. Okay. So, other thing I need to do is turn this off and shove these wires up in there, because right now they're just sort of in a proof of concept mode. Alright, now we know that that thing is successfully deactivated on the circuit. And we're going to shove these wires up inside where they are protected. And then we're going to confirm that it actually still turns on and doesn't trip the breaker after I've done this. Because that would suck, you know? Alright, now how are we looking for stability and straightness? Now I'm going to take my wrench and tighten these down better than I did earlier, because honestly earlier I wasn't even sure that I wasn't going to be pulling it right back off of there. But now I know that for the most part the wiring is solid. I might have to replace that photocell depending on what's going on, but that'll be episode for another time. Now, what I'm finding interesting is that the wiring for the twist lock top actually uses the same colors, and I think it uses the same exact wiring as the little photocells I've got that do not twist lock onto the top. This shouldn't be too surprising because it's probably just a regular photocell in a handy packaging so that those of us who are not professional electricians can successfully replace these little modules. But I actually want to learn, experience, and grow here, so I intend to deep dive a little bit and figure out exactly what is going on there. All right, that's pretty bright. Okay, it is now 3:59. It is a minute before my bedtime, so have fun, everybody. I am signing off for the night. Bye. Okay, this is one of those little kind of after credits things. Would you believe that this thing is 100 watts and it was replacing a bulb that it was 175? That 175 watt bulb put out a fraction of the light that this thing does. Now, the interesting thing is that it's got all these LEDs in it, but because it generates so much heat, it actually has a little fan in here, which, by the way, has a really loud, annoying noise. And, you know, I also have a hunch it's going to be pureeing bugs over time, so I probably ought to be finding something that can enclose it a little bit better, because that's going to be a problem. Anyway, have fun.